Mondays are Colin right, Colin wrong. I have plenty of strong opinions, hold ourselves accountable when we miss, and here we go on a Monday.
Where Colin was right.
Been saying for years, Derek Carr reminds me of Tony Romo, and Tony Romo is going to get some Hall of Fame votes. He was on display last night. The guy is absolutely on fire. He's dead solid accurate. He's more mobile than half the quarterbacks in the league. He has total command of the offense, and he has a presence. He's completing 69.7% of his throws. He doesn't have the biggest arm, but I got to tell you, when you watch the Raiders last night, 23 of 31, 120 passer rating, you feel like he has complete and utter control of this offense. John Gruden knows he's got a winner, and Derek Carr was struggling pre-Gruden, and now they're in harmony.
Where Colin was wrong.
Thank God for the Colts, blazing 5-1-3. We're 25-28-1 on the year. The Chiefs lost. I think America lost on that. Andy Reid off a bye is generally perfect, covering the spread. You know what? To be announced tonight. It's been a weird year. I went 1-4, 4-1, 1-4, 4-1, and now 1-3. It's a weird year.
Where Colin was right.
I said Friday, Sean Payton's resume, he's earned my respect to name the starter of the Saints. Taysom Hill, short term, probably a better fit for the coaching staff, and Taysom Hill was excellent. 18 of 23, 108 quarterback rating, rush for 2 touchdowns. Taysom Hill has limitations, but running quarterbacks and the element of surprise they bring is a problem. And Atlanta had been playing really well, and suddenly they weren't. Yes, Jameis Winston is a better thrower of the football and is a more traditional quarterback. But Sean Payton's trying to win 3 games. That's all he cares about. And Taysom Hill is a curveball that Atlanta, a team they'll play in 2 weeks, just wasn't ready for.
Where Colin was wrong.
Carson Wentz and the Eagles, I can no longer defend either, and I've been a huge fan of both. Carson leads the NFL in picks. He leads it in fumbles. Doug Peterson, what is your offensive identity? I don't know what it is. What do they do well? They're finally healthy now. You can't use those excuses. I am officially off the Eagles.
Where Colin was right?
Well, this is not second guessing. This is first preaching. We told you, Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, this was our greatest concern. I said if I was Joe Burrow, Carson Palmer threatened to retire. He did. He said, I'm retiring if you don't trade me from Cincinnati. I said if I was Joe Burrow, I'd do everything I can not to play for him. The Bengals have an obligation to protect Joe Burrow, and like Andrew Luck and the Colts, they did not. And this is not second guessing. We've been on this for a year. Too many throws, no running game support, and the organization, shocker, Cincinnati is letting us down.
Where Colin was wrong.
If the season ended today, the Baltimore Ravens are not a playoff team. I know, I said 16-0, maybe 15-1. It's not just a can't play from behind thing because they led by 11 points in the second half. Yes, Lamar Jackson from behind isn't as good, and there are certain throws teams are begging him to make. What they're doing is filling up the running lanes. They're bringing people in the box and saying, throw it, we dare you. Right now, they do not feel, against good teams, like a playoff team.
Where Colin was right?
Never bought into Matt Patricia. I said before, looks matter. First impressions matter. He's kind of sloppy, hat on backwards guy. I've never thought the Lions players buy into him. And I made a call this weekend to somebody in the NFL I respect. And I said, like, what's the room like? What's the temperature? And he said, listen, you don't get a lot of buy-in with Matt Patricia. Didn't play. And there's a lot of arrogance. And there's a lot of, like, New England sense of entitlement. Like, I won. Players don't buy into him. How do you lose to a rebuilding team, to an XFL quarterback, and you get shut out with Matt Stafford? I mean, I've said before, Matt Stafford's a lot of stats and not a lot of big wins, but he's talented. This was bottoming out. That was players not buying into the coach.
Where Colin was wrong.
I've been saying for the last 2 weeks, I thought the Minnesota Vikings were the best team with a losing record. But the problem is all their talents on the offensive side. Kirk Cousins played really well. He really did. And Dalvin Cook's amazing. But you can't lose to the Cowboys at home. You just can't do it. And Green Bay lost. So that's good. Detroit lost. So in their division, they're not losing ground, but they are now a 4-6 team that struggles to get good offenses off the field, and that is their reality.
Where Colin was wrong.
Rob Pelinka and the Lakers had an absolutely unbelievable last week. I've said the Lakers don't feel well run for the last several years. They got Montrezl Harrell, a young athletic big. They landed Marc Gasol, not only a great passer, but a tremendous low post defender. They got Dennis Schroeder, who can actually run a team, 18 points a game, and they throw in Wes Matthews, a 3-and-D guy, can hit a three, can D you up. Right now, I would make the argument, I know this sounds crazy, this is the most talent potentially LeBron's ever had. In Cleveland, he had stars but no depth. He's got depth. In Miami, he had stars but no size and didn't have a good backcourt. He's got now both. AD and Marc Gasol are two of the top 3 or 4 defensive bigs in the league. They got younger, they got deeper, they got more athletic, they got a couple of shooters. Home runs. This is as good a collection of 7 or 8 basketball players I believe LeBron's ever played with. And I include Miami. And I like Wade and Bosch and Battier. But that team had no size. They were sketchy at point guard. Lakers, kudos, tip of the cap. Great week for Rob Pelinka. By the way, don't want to spend too much time on this because Philadelphia is not worth a discussion. But Doug Peterson, the coach, he's being asked now, should you just bench Carson Wentz? And here's his response.
If you get to that spot, whether you don't start him or you bench, I think you're sending the wrong message to your football team that the season's over, and that's a bad message. And we have to work through this. Times, when times get tough, it's sometimes that might be the easy thing to do.
I said this a couple weeks ago. If you're reckless as a quarterback, Carson Wentz and Sam Darnold, they're reckless. They have an it. They have talent. If my quarterback doesn't have an it, doesn't have an arm, there's got to be something special for me to give you another chance or another chance. Darnold and Carson Wentz, because there's a certain athletic ability and it factor, they'll get other chances. This morning, I thought there's 8 teams that'll probably draft a quarterback. Jags, New England, Washington, Indy, Chicago, San Francisco, Denver. I can make the argument they all need quarterbacks, maybe a couple more. Wentz and Darnold are on the market, and there's teams that need to be more dynamic at that position. But I almost wonder if it's time for a reset. It's just in the last couple years, it doesn't feel right. I was in a conversation with my wife not long ago, and I said, if you want to buy a house, don't talk yourself into buying a new house. Let the house talk you into buying it. Or in other words, if something doesn't feel right, don't talk yourself into it. This puppy doesn't feel right now. I don't know what it is. Chris Cooley, the Pro Bowl tight end who played in that division and against Wentz, was on our show a couple weeks ago and said, something's just not right.
I think Carson Wentz is one of those interesting guys that maybe isn't a good fit for Philadelphia. To me, it seems like there's been issues with Wentz since he went down and Foles came in, going back to that next year where they had the giant billboard of Nick Foles, and you could tell it hurt Carson Wentz's feelings.
Yeah.
He's a guy that's an incredible playmaker. Wentz is a guy that can do anything you want him to do. He'll extend plays. He's great off script. He can make every throw on the football field. But at the same time, he's a guy that makes a ton of mistakes. And like you mentioned, he's a guy that ends up injured all the time. So I think that you really have a question mark on what you want to do with Carson Wentz in the future. Someone will pay him because he's an outstanding talent. But I don't know if the fit's perfect in Philadelphia.
Listen, quarterback is, certain sports, golf, baseball, and quarterback, certain sports, certain positions, confidence matters. Sam Darnold doesn't feel like he trusts the Jets. I'm not sure the Jets trust him. And Carson Wentz, something's wrong upstairs. I don't have the answers. Divorces happen, reset. He'll get an offer. Carson Wentz will get an offer. Darnold will get an offer. But right now, it just doesn't look right. So last week, Drew Brees gets hurt, and then Jameis Winston we think is going to start, and then Taysom Hill starts. Now, Taysom Hill had only completed 18 passes. And there was a story this weekend that some of the Saints players didn't really like it. Yeah, and some of the Dolphins players didn't really like it when Ryan Fitzpatrick sat. But Tua playing and Taysom Hill playing is very similar, and I'll get to that in a second. So I've always said this about running quarterbacks. Running quarterbacks work. They just don't last. But the element of surprise works. The Wildcat offense worked in this league for a year. Hiking the ball to a running back worked. Even New England tried it in Belichick. It worked. It didn't last. Lamar Jackson worked. Colin Kaepernick worked. Tim Tebow won 7 straight games. It doesn't last. The league figures it out. If you look at the teams that won yesterday, their running backs ran and their quarterbacks threw. That's what eventually works. But Taysom Hill was effective for a game because Sean Payton here isn't making a decision for the future of the Saints. He's making a decision for 3 weeks. Sean Payton wants to win 3 games, and then Drew Brees is back. That's it. And for 3 games, his argument is Taysom Hill, element of the surprise, is a more athletic version of Tebow. He's a much better thrower of the football than Tebow. And we've seen Lamar and Kaepernick and Tebow. It catches people off guard. It takes months, sometimes a year, for people to figure it out. And Atlanta's defense was hot and looked lost. Atlanta didn't quite know what to do yesterday. And the other thing is, when Brian Flores started Tua over Ryan Fitzpatrick, think about that. Why? Well, because Fitzpatrick was winning, he's been in the league longer, and yet they went with Tua. Why? Because Flores said, my defense is really good, and I don't need a ton from my quarterback. What I need is no mistakes, and Fitzpatrick's a gunslinger. And a lot of the players in Miami didn't like it, but Tua came in, and he was initially a better fit for the defense. Okay, and similarly, Taysom Hill. Saints have a really good defense, but Taysom Hill runs, eats the clock, takes some wear and tear off Alvin Kamara, and doesn't have a history of lots of mistakes like Jameis. And so the Dolphins made a decision to go with a kid that had never played in the NFL over Ryan Fitzpatrick, who was hot, to help their defense. And Taysom Hill helps your defense. He's not going to turn it over. He's going to run and eat the clock. He takes some wear and tear off Alvin Kamara. And so long term, there's a reason duct tape in life works. Duct tape buys you time until you get a solution for something, or you can buy something, or something gets fixed. Taysom Hill could very well just be the world's best duct tape. All you want to do is win 3 games. And Sean Payton, for the record, is now 6-0 using midseason backups. He knows what he's doing. Here's Sean Payton after the win.
The offense changed some. We carried a lot of the same protections. Certainly we featured some heavy play actions. We felt like it was going to be a lot of down safety defense. I thought we threw the ball down the field well, and I was proud of the execution. Again, I thought we blocked them up front real well.
Yeah, I mean, as I watched that game, and don't even ask me why I've ever bet Atlanta in my life. I'm now 0 for 400 betting the Falcons. But Atlanta came in playing pretty good defense, and Taysom Hill gave them problems. And never forget this. I go back to this. Tim Tebow won 7 games in a row and couldn't throw the ball. Not close to Taysom Hill. And Taysom's a much better athlete. Is that the element of surprise? The run and shoot worked for a while in the NFL. The Wildcat worked. Atlanta looked lost. And this is duct tape. I mean, Sean Payton just wants to win 3 games. That's all he wants. He wants to win 3 games. Jameis, to me, is the better long-term answer. We're not talking long-term. We're talking 3 weeks, maybe less than a month, and it worked.